Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into some YouKaren. Please check out the KCC Discord linked in the description down below. There you can talk to me and a whole bunch of KCC fans who hang out there on a regular basis. I look forward to seeing you there. Our first story today comes to us from Littlest Sprout. Karen gets mad at me for fidgeting in a doctor's office waiting room. Let's jump right in. So for context, I'm autistic, and because of that, I have trouble regulating my emotions and sensory input and output. My brain solves this problem with self-stimulatory behavior, or stimming for short. Basically, it's just repetitive movements such as hand flapping, bouncing your leg, or drumming your fingers. Anyway, I was at the doctor's office yesterday, and I was quite nervous as I was there for a health problem that could be something very serious. The wait in the waiting room was taking longer than usual, and my anxiety wasn't helping. So I was fluttering my hands, making sure to keep them just above my thighs so I wasn't taking up unnecessary space or making any noise. Then this Karen comes over and says something along the lines of, "Can you stop doing that? It's distracting everyone in here." I'm not sure what they were being distracted from, since it was the waiting room for a family doctor, but I figured I had just missed a social cue, and so I just apologized and grabbed a fidget toy from my backpack. It was just a tangle, so I figured it wouldn't disturb anyone since it's quiet and compact. But not 2 minutes later, the same woman came over, this time much more irate, and demanded that I stop my fiddling, again saying that it was distracting. I was very confused, but I figured she just didn't understand, so I gave her a really short explanation of what I was doing and why I was doing it. The second that the word autism left my mouth, she gave me the biggest eye roll and said, "Just because you're R-word doesn't mean you have to bother the rest of us with it. Just sit on your hands or something." I wish I could make this stuff up. At this point, an older gentleman sitting a few seats away from me told her that I wasn't really bothering anyone, and maybe she should just look somewhere else. She then proceeded to snap that she didn't want me acting like that because she didn't want her kid, who was on the other side of the room oblivious to all of this playing on his Switch, to pick up weird behaviors before storming back to her seat. I didn't want to cause any troubles, so I just put my fidget in my coat pocket and tried my hardest to keep my body painfully still, and luckily I was called in soon after. But I just don't get it. I didn't think that I was disturbing anyone. I made sure my stimming was silent. How was I distracting anyone? And the bit about her kid? Autism isn't contagious, Karen. Why are you so concerned? People are strange. OP, you have a lot of restraint. At that point, I probably would have pulled out my phone, made sure my sounds were turned on, made sure that the taptic feedback was on my keyboard so that it made a noise every single time I type something, and then I would start typing out a frickin' novel. You don't like being distracted, Karen? I will show you distraction. Do me a quick favor and take a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're actually not subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. This next story comes to us from the philosopher KMH, the story of the apartment building Karen. Let's jump right in. A few years ago, I was helping my mother-in-law move into an apartment building for people 50 plus. The doors have a lock that is open with a keycard. As I'm unloading the U-Haul and opening the door, an old lady approaches my wife and I. She comes up pretty close, way in my bubble, my personal zone, and asked if we live here. Not wanting to be rude, I tell her that we are helping my mother-in-law move in. She saw me using the keycard and tells me that I'm not allowed to have one according to the rules of the apartment, and that she is going to get my mother-in-law evicted. She then asks what apartment she lives in. I tell her it's none of her business and to please leave us alone to do our work. When we get to the apartment, we tell mother-in-law what happened, so she's prepared for a response. She tells us that the rules actually say that people helping with moving and family are allowed to use the keycard, and since we are both, we're fine. On the way back down to the U-Haul, I got an idea. Of course, the Karen was still standing out by our U-Haul, just waiting to say something stupid again. We start getting more furniture and head to the door. She can't contain or control herself. So obviously she starts in on us with, "What are your names? You could be criminals. What is the apartment number? You shouldn't have a key card." This is where I put my plan in action. I tell her I don't have a key card anymore. I don't need it. I hacked into the building security with my smartphone. I go up to the door, hold my phone up to the lock, and it turns green and opens. I hid the key card in my phone case so she couldn't see it. She stomped off, mumbling to herself about reporting us to the main office. Little did she know that I already talked to them. They are sick of her harassing people, and she has a long history of doing just that. I told them my plan, and they laughed about it. Treat me like a criminal, and now you get to worry that I hacked your building security. Unfortunately, it seems like this Karen's been able to get away with harassing people with absolutely no consequences for a very long time. The only way these people learn is if there actually are consequences to their actions. Any other time you, your wife, or your mother-in-law run into this Karen and they're causing a problem, it needs to be reported. With enough reports, you might even be able to get them removed from the building, and that would be a better situation for everybody who lives there. This next story comes to us from Fat Santa. Karen thinks I'm hacking the airplane. Let's jump right in. So, I'm a web developer, and in the course of my work, I use the command line terminal quite a bit. The other day, I was catching a flight to see my friends. Knock off work a bit early and assume I'm going to get my work done on the flight. Get through the airport and on the plane. Up until now, things are business as usual. Get on the flight, reach 30,000 feet, and throw open the laptop to get some work done. I'm typing away when someone taps me on the shoulder. An older lady who was apparently going to the bathroom. "Excuse me, what are you doing?" "Working." "No, what is that on your screen?" Points to my terminal window. "My work, ma'am. Can you please let me get back to it?" She walks off and I think it was just some curious lady. Whatever, get back to work. As I'm working, I can hear the lady come up to a flight attendant and start talking. I don't really listen in, but one sentence raises my eyebrows. "I think that man is trying to hack the airplane." JC, I think to myself, and shortly enough, a flight attendant comes up and asks what I am doing. I politely explain to her my line of work, the tool I am currently using, and just some quick facts about what I do, cocktail party type stuff. The flight attendant understands and leaves me alone to continue my work, apparently explaining to Karen that I am doing nothing wrong. Karen then proceeds to walk to the back of the airplane and get the attention of the rear flight attendant. While I was not privy to this conversation, Karen apparently claimed that she was a security expert and that she knew certifiably that I was indeed trying to take remote control of the aircraft. Second flight attendant comes, this time much more worried, with Karen in tow, and asks what I am doing. As I try to explain again, Karen jumps in and tries to explain for me. We argue for a hot second, and then I'm like, F it, and ask her, "If you're such an expert, please break down for the flight attendant what exactly it is I'm doing." "Well, he is clearly hacking the aircraft." "Okay, great, but what exactly am I doing? Hacking is pretty vague. If you're such an expert, you should have a good idea." "Well, I'm a manager. I'm not in the weeds like my engineers are." Then let me ask you again, if you're a manager that isn't technical, then how are you able to discern what exactly it is that I'm doing? You said it yourself, you don't know the details. Karen was speechless. Flight attendant said, "Ma'am, will you please go back to your seat?" Karen walks back to her seat and the story ends there. Later, when drink service was going on, the flight attendants forgot to charge me for some liquor. Whoopsies. Ugh, this type of Karen. You know darn well they're going to commend themselves to everybody they know, saying that they single-handedly prevented a hijacking on the plane, thinking that because they caught OP in the act, that they had to abandon their big plan. This next story comes to us from The Haunted Sis, the Fry Guy incident. Let's jump right in. So, I used to work at McDonald's for about 7 months. I didn't like it much there, but my gosh, did we get so many complaints by customers during the busiest hours of the day. I was working a held shift that day. If you don't know what that is, it's where we'd run food out to those who had to wait longer from drive-thru or from mobile pickup orders. And it was a very busy day. and this one guy stood out. We'll call him Karen for this. Karen hollers over to me from where he was in the parking lot, asking where his food was, saying he was waiting for 5 minutes. When I saw him just pull up into his parking spot, I let him know it may be a bit as we are currently very packed and busy. I then proceed to walk back inside to continue delivering orders. Not even 5 minutes later, he comes in demanding his food, because at the time, we still had a very restrictive mask mandate. People who came in had to wear a mask, and which he wasn't. So I walked up to him letting him know he can't be in here without a mask. He then proceeded to say, "I don't effing care, I probably already got COVID spread," as he then tried to spit on me before being pushed out by other employees. We hurry and get his order, and total wait time was 6 minutes since he parked in the driveway. I handed him his food and he looked so pissed. "I deserve a large fry because I waited 30 minutes for this crap." I kindly let him know that it hadn't been that long and that he would have to pay for the large fry. "Get me your effing manager," is what he responded with. I nod and go to walk away. He then said, "And wipe that pride crap off your face, you..." Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. It was Pride Month during the time, so I had pride stickers on my face shield. I ignored him and let my manager know as she dealt with the rest of his BS. We gave him the free large fry in the end, and we thought he was done, but nope. You'd think he'd drive off if he hated the place that much, but nope. That B decided to drive back into the drive-thru. My manager saw this and took control of the lane he was in, so the worker didn't have to get harassed by this dude. He pays for another large fry and continues to cuss out my manager. When he got the fries, he took them and tried throwing the freshly made fries, which are hella effing hot, at the person on drive-thru. Luckily, it hit the window instead as he drove off. People are so weird. Well, one thing that a lot of people might not know is that if somebody spits on you, that's considered assault, and you have it on surveillance cameras. Call the police and let there be some consequences for this person's actions. This is the only way a person like this is ever going to learn. This next story comes to us from Mobius153. Karen's kid is nicely booted from a birthday party for being a dick. Karen has a problem with it. Let's jump right in. My daughter is turning 10 this weekend and wanted to have a sleepover pool party at one of the hotels here in town. It's a small town, so not a lot of options. She invited her friends, and unbeknownst to us, until a few days prior, a boy she apparently has a crush on. Not to sleep over, just attend the party part. We found out when the boy's mother RSVP'd. The party starts and this boy's mom drops him off. We chat with her a little and all is well, and she leaves. Shortly after, we hear him swearing and throwing the finger at the girls. So my wife tells him that's not cool and he needs to stop. The kid immediately starts pouting and goes and sits in a corner until he finally came back and rejoined the other kids. We figured, whatever, he apparently doesn't take no very well, but it's done. Unbeknownst to us at the time, he apparently started doing it again, and the girls pretty much excluded him for being a dick, and there was little squabble and he returned to his pouting spot. I tried to talk to him thinking that maybe since I'm also a guy, he might talk to me, but he completely blew me off. With this, we texted his mom and told her he isn't getting along with the other kids, so please come pick him up. Sorry it didn't work out. The girls decide to make peace and offer him some pizza and a cupcake, which he smashed into one of the girls' faces right before his mom picked him up. This kid is really a dickhead now. She picks him up, all seems cordial, kids are kids, and there are disputes, but we didn't bother to share all the details. We just wanted him gone without incident, because this kid obviously does no wrong in the eyes of his parents, and we didn't want to deal with someone accusing us of being mean to their kid when the kid was the problem. Well, we did anyway. 20 minutes later, his mom comes back in and starts screaming at 10-year-old girls, saying, "You're all effing mean. Kid has been sitting in my car crying for the last 20 minutes because you effing people can't be nice, and you ruined his Friday night." She rambled on some more nonsense, including what sounded like her calling my daughter a B, and my wife got in front of her and told her, more nicely than she should have, that's enough, and it's time for her to leave now. She took the gift they brought and stormed out, swearing over her shoulder and flipping us all off. Now we know where he got it from. This whole thing took place inside of 30 seconds, and I was on the other side of the pool with my son, who was upset about being pushed in, so I wasn't there to intervene. Not that I would have done much more than my wife did, because I wasn't about to escalate this Karen storm. Of course, my daughter is in tears. The other girls are in a state. The entire pool area is dead silent, with everyone staring. It took a good 45 minutes to get my daughter calmed down after having a grown woman yell and swear at her. Obviously, Karen's kid has probably never been told no, and never been disciplined, and it shows big time. I just effing hate Karen parents. Thankfully, in the end, everyone went back to fun mode and the rest of the evening was a success. Now, somebody in the comment section for this one said, "My first thought was throw Karen in the pool." And OP actually responded with, "Oh, how badly I wanted to. Not worth the police interaction and likely charges that would follow, unfortunately." This Karen and her crotch goblin fall into one of the quotes from Jim Leahy, rest in peace, where he said, "The crap apple doesn't fall far from the crap tree." This next story comes to us from Normal Regret 1282. Horse riding Karens attacked my partner's car, then tried to get him prosecuted. Let's jump right in. I am very lucky to live on an island in a major river in the UK. It's normally really peaceful here, apart from Easter weekend, when a long-distance canoe race passes by. Imagine a marathon on the water. The race became very popular suddenly, and for a couple of years, we had problems with support vehicles parking either side of the single-track access lane, which is only way to get on and off. One year, we forgot about the race, and my partner drove to the local store for supplies less than a mile away. Almost 2 hours later, he returned, looking shocked and upset. I asked what happened, and he said he'd had difficulty getting past the parked cars, but with no space to turn back, had no option to continue. When he was almost through, he encountered 2 women on horseback approaching from the other direction. As we are used to riders in the area, he had stopped to let them pass. However, as second horse squeezed through, it got spooked by the chaos around, and the rider whipped the roof of his car hard and deliberately, despite the fact that he had done nothing. I was furious, especially since there was no good reason why the women were riding there, other than to rubberneck at what was happening. In addition, horse riding is permanently banned on the river path because it's narrow and is popular with walkers, and therefore dangerous. Stupidly, I posted a comment on the local Facebook site to complain and warn people to avoid the area if possible, since it was gridlocked. Sadly, this caused a torrent of abuse directed at me by armchair warriors defending the woman and claiming that he had provoked them. Although I did also get a couple of other comments from people who had a similar experience. It was really nasty for a while. Luckily for us, a local stable owner DM'd me and called over to get the story firsthand. She was extremely concerned that horses had been put at risk in this way, and vowed that she would investigate with other stables in the area. Meanwhile, the 2 riders heard about the controversy and attacked us on Facebook, even lying that he had driven at them and were reporting him to the police, which stirred up the trolls again. At this point, we decided to report the incident ourselves. Thankfully, with the help of the stable owner, a witness, and the women outing themselves, the women could be easily located, and our story was believed. Last I heard, the police were going to issue them with a caution, and they were in danger of being banned by all the local stables. The incident put me off Facebook, particularly our local site, for many years, despite the fact that it had previously been very useful. Wait, what? People on Facebook actually going off on other people when they don't even know what happened? Oh, come on, that never happens. Facebook is just a wonderful place to share family photos. It's totally not filled with trash and the lowest scum of the earth. Check out all P's linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.